Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a genuinely cinematic story of destiny, immense pressure, and ultimate heartbreak at the 2010 FIFA World Cup. You know, in sports, we talk a lot about games of inches, but rarely do we see the hopes of an entire continent hanging in the balance of a single agonizing fraction of a second. We're going to unpack exactly how that happened. Let's drop right into the most tense moment imaginable, minute 120. We are at the very end of extra time in a deadlocked World Cup quarterfinal between Ghana and Uruguay. The players are utterly exhausted. The atmosphere in Johannesburg is absolutely electric, vibrating with that continuous, deafening hum of the vuvuzelas. It is literally do or die. The match has entered its absolute final seconds. Imagine the breathless tension here. A penalty shootout seems completely inevitable at this point, but somehow Ghana finds the energy to launch one last desperate attack right into the Uruguayan penalty area. And suddenly, chaos erupts in the box. The ball gets crossed in and a header soars toward the net. An entire continent, literally hundreds of millions of people, held their collective breath. History wasn't just close, it was inches away. It looked for all the world like a guaranteed game-winning goal. Section 1, Africa's Last Hope, the Weight of a Continent. Let's rewind a bit to understand the backstory and see why this wasn't just a regular soccer match. The 2010 tournament carried enormous, unprecedented significance. For the very first time in history, the World Cup was being hosted in Africa, specifically by South Africa. The expectations were monumental. For decades, African teams had fought tooth and nail for recognition on the global stage. And finally, the world's biggest sporting event had arrived right on their doorstep. But the pressure intensified as, week by week, those African hopes started to fade. Cameroon exits. Nigeria departs. Even the host nation, South Africa, gets eliminated. Until finally, in the knockout stage, only the Black Stars of Ghana remained. Almost overnight, they became the sole standard-bearers for an entire continent. So, all that weight fell directly onto the Black Stars. And man, what a team. They were young, fearless, and incredibly disciplined. Match after match, they embraced the mounting pressure rather than folding under it. They showed immense resilience, which culminated in this historic, physically punishing victory over the United States in the round of 16. That win meant they stood just one game away from a historic semifinal. Section 2. The Midnight Drama, July 2nd, 2010. Soccer City Stadium. Let's head back to that extraordinary night in Johannesburg, where millions watched Ghana and Uruguay battle for a permanent place in history. The stakes, honestly, couldn't have been higher. Both teams knew exactly what a place in the semifinals meant, but neither side could establish total control in regular time. They traded blows, they fought bravely, but 90 minutes were simply not enough. And that set the stage for extra time, a period defined by brutal exhaustion, skyrocketing anxiety, and ultimately massive controversy. Section 3, the handball controversy, sacrifice at the goal line. Okay, let's snap back to that fateful 120th minute header we talked about at the very beginning to examine the deliberate act that shattered a continent's dream. The ball crossed the line, or actually, scratch that. It absolutely should have crossed the line. It was totally destined for the back of the net. But standing right there, literally on the goal line, was Uruguayan striker Luis Suarez. And what he did next changed the course of football history forever. In a moment of sheer desperation, Suarez used his hands to instinctively block the ball. It was deliberate and it was desperate. The referee immediately blew the whistle, pointed to the spot to award a penalty to Ghana, and showed Suarez a straight red card. His World Cup was officially over. As he walked off the pitch, he fully accepted the punishment, knowing he was keeping his team on life support for just one more minute. Now, this created an immediate, wildly polarizing ethical divide. Did Suarez heroically sacrifice himself for his country, taking the ultimate punishment just to give his team a one-in-a-million lifeline? Or did he cynically cheat an entire continent out of its crowning legitimate achievement? We're impartially unpacking it here, but let me tell you, it's a debate that still passionately rages among football fans today. Section 4. The Heartbreak One Kick from History. Let's shift our focus to the immense, crushing pressure placed squarely on the shoulders of Ghana's star striker, Asamoah Gyan. One kick, the massive stadium of over 80,000 people fell completely, terrifyingly silent as Guion stepped up to the penalty spot for this single, isolated kick. One moment, this tiny fraction of time held the deepest hopes of millions of supporters watching around the globe, so many of them already weeping in the stands in pure anticipation of glory. It all condensed down into this very second. One opportunity. It was a solitary chance to become the absolute first African nation to ever reach a World Cup semifinal. The weight of an entire continent rested right on the laces of his boots. He scores, the game is over, and history is made. Guion steps up and strikes the penalty with incredible power. But in a moment that caused the entire stadium to literally gasp in disbelief, the ball rises just a bit too high. It violently smashes against the crossbar and ricochets away. The chance was gone. The ultimate victory had slipped through their fingers in the most agonizing way imaginable. Section 5. The Shootout. The Echoes of Africa's Vanished Dream. Emotionally shattered from being literally seconds away from absolute victory, Ghana now immediately faced the brutal reality of a penalty shootout to decide the match. The psychological damage was pretty much done. Both teams battled under immense pressure, but Uruguay ultimately prevailed in the shootout. The dream was officially over. Ghana's players collapsed on the pitch in total devastation, while Africa mourned a vanished dream. Rarely, if ever, has a single sporting outcome produced such widespread, collective heartbreak. Section 6. Legacy of the Debate, the Ghost of Johannesburg. You see, this single match completely transcended a simple game of football, becoming an unforgettable human tragedy and triumph. But despite the crushing end, Ghana's 2010 run absolutely leaves an enduring legacy. They inspired millions across the globe and demonstrated unequivocally that African nations could go toe-to-toe with football's traditional global powers. They changed perceptions and inspired entirely new generations of footballers. They proved without a doubt that they belonged on the world's biggest stage. This story serves as such a stark reminder of the razor-thin margins in sports. World Cups are remembered for moments. And in this beautiful, sometimes cruel sport, the grandest histories are occasionally written by a single, instantaneous moment, a single decision on a goal line, a single, agonizing kick against a crossbar. So we leave you with this enduring debate from one of football's most unforgettable endings. Was Luis Suarez a villain, or was his deliberate handball simply the ultimate, instinctive sacrifice for his country? Think about what you would want a player to do for your own team in that exact split second. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive gave you a new perspective on an incredible piece of sports history. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.